Okay, I've got a few tips I've learned the hard way on changing the top on a Foxbody Mustang. If you're looking here, you probably found that there's like virtually no information specifically on how to do this on the internet without buying one of those videos put out by that upholstery company, I think, seat covers, something like that, which is good if you are just replacing the top and you're not getting into like the top pads. In my situation, my car was vandalized back in 2006 and it sat ever since, and they had cut through these pads, so I had nothing to do. So the first thing, if you're going to replace these pads, take your measurements between the bows, because that's important, because it's going to affect the stack height of the third bow in the back. If you don't replace those pads and you go by the video, you're probably fine. But like I said, my situation was different because I had to start from scratch, and I ripped all this stuff off, and before I knew that the pads had anything to do with it. But what's happening here is they say, well, on 87 and 90, the stack height or the third bow height should be 25 1/4, and then 91 and 93 it's 25 3/4. Like right now, as it sits here, it's 25 1/4, but when I install the rear window, it pulls down on here, and then we're at like 24 1/2. So I'm not sure what that's going to do, but they say that it's very important, so I'm going to take their advice. So what happened here, what caused this situation for me, and this is an important thing if you're doing this, is how the car is going to be jacked up, because I'm obviously doing more to this car than just the top, and I had it on 4 jack stands on the chassis. So what happens then is that the chassis flexes, and the weight of the rear actually pulls the top back. So when I installed these pads, they were nice and tight, but that's what was messing everything up. And then I realized, because my doors weren't shutting, that that's not the way it's supposed to be under normal conditions. So I had to put the car down. Now I have it on these the skid plates, or the plates that roll around, whatever you want to call them, and I have the back supported by jack stands on the rear. So now it's as if it was driving down the road. It's on the suspension. And now bringing it down on suspension, you can see I've got play, a lot of play here. And this is why I'm having this situation. So I have to pull these pads rather than undo all this work and move everything forward to bring this up, so that when I install the window, it pulls it back to 25 1/4. So that's a big thing there. Have the car on the suspension when you're doing the top. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to go back and edit these videos, so I have to kind of do it piece by piece here. If there was another point I was trying to make here, but definitely do not have the car loaded on the chassis. Have it loaded on the suspension. Otherwise, you're going to run into problems like I did so far. Well, that's my next step. I got to pull the pads and redo them and pull everything forward.